So look, the Beach Brothers Show is a show where we deal with Virginia business and politics.
Well, I'm Conrad. I'm a Hampton West political activist. Best ideas for community improvement happen to drive me.
I help folks that are approaching retirement and in their retirement years.
I have what I call the empowerment agenda. And that means that everything I do is focused on empowerment. You want to give a salute to Tally and Twine. It's time for you to have a high quality watch made in Virginia, made in Portsmouth, Virginia, from Tally and Twine. We want to say thanks to Southern Volkswagen Greenbrier for their great level of sponsorship. If you need a new car, you don't need to go far. Southern Volkswagen Greenbrier. And ladies, if you want your brows to say, wow, check out IamLitaWee.com. Microblading by IamLitaWee.com. I'm Seko Varner. I do credit fixes, tax resolutions. I lend private money to real estate investors, and we do debt consolidations. If you need any of these services, contact me as provided. And now it's time to get beachy on the Beach Brothers Show.
Good evening, Beach Brothers Show audience. We will have Mr. Seko Varner and Mr. Jose Cruz join us shortly. I'm glad you guys want to come on tonight because it's probably going to be one of the great shows and a favorite one of mine for going way into the future. I want to step on my little soapbox here for a second, my podium, if you will. This past Tuesday, I had the privilege of speaking in front of Virginia Beach School Board via the Zoom meeting. I didn't go there. We had like 31 people just waiting online to speak. I was like the 29th one, and it was pretty long. The topics that night was keeping the Virginia Beach Schools equity curriculum. And it sort of frazzled a decent amount of people, notably at-large member Victoria Manning and many individuals who share similar views. It sort of got personal in some ways, going after the Rose Hall board rep, Jessica Owens, which was even brought up in a national show this week and on Fox this morning. The many who joined Vicky in decrying the lesson plans do so sort of out of an anxiety, I feel, about race and it being examined within schooling. And my podium tonight is to remind the crowd a simple fact that civics and social studies are classes all Virginia Beach students have to take from middle school on to high school. They stress studying rights and duties of our citizenship and how we all interact with each other and how we interact with our government. That equity policy and plans like it, such as critical race theory, is the study of civics with reality brought in with it. So don't fail our teachers, don't fail our students due to anxiety you might have about race. Embrace it and proceed forward. Now for the breadth of tonight's show, it's a real treat for tonight's show being our guest. See, as some may know, I went to Salem High School and graduated in 2005. On some of those mornings that I would go to school, I was listening to 96X. And at the time that was programming like Mancow's Morning Madhouse. Then I didn't really listen on the way home. I had a lot of stuff to do. For instance, in the beginning of the year, it would be football practice. So I didn't get to listen to afternoon programming. But at ODU, I kept listening to 96X and I started listening to programming on the drive time way home. My favorite show for driving home was the Mike and Bob Show. Seemingly designed for myself and my brothers and many other youngsters, young adults throughout the 757 to the very T, the Mike and Bob Show is a shining staple of the 757 and I miss it a lot. And tonight I'm absolutely delighted to have on Bob France, Mike Powers. And I admit asking to be on the show for a little while now. I've been messaging with Bob about this for more than a couple months. And sort of Mike Powers, who I lucked into reaching this week, so I'm glad we're able to get them all together. So they're absolutely cool dudes. You guys know this already. And together they are dynamite for a radio show. So welcome, Mike and Bob, to the Beach Brothers Show.
Hello.
Thanks, lads.
Hello. Is this working?
Oh,
You're working.
All right. All right.
Dude, you look good. I love your hair.
Thanks.
I do.
Thanks.
I like the new glasses. I like everything.
Thank you. The glasses are Warby Parker. I got them over the plague, and then I'm not getting my hair cut until I know it's safe. So this is my my COVID
it's
hair.
Your protection. Well, you've honored. Yeah, well, you know what it is. You got a nice head of hair too. You could really let your shit go as well.
It's beautiful.
Just like Bobby, it is beautiful. It reminds me of when you were younger, our pavilion days, and you look really young and hot with it.
I like your beard. I admire your beard.
Thank you.
It looks good on you. It looks good.
You. I wanted to curl it under a little bit for everybody because it has a little thing going right now, but I'm just gonna let it be.
I like it. I've always admired your hair because you've spent a lot of time on your hair ever since we've known each other back in. When did we meet? We met in 94?
Yeah, we were in 3 because we were in the 10th grade.
Okay.
And we were competing for a class clown essentially in the 10th grade. And we were kind of jockeying for position. And then when we realized that there's no position but the one together. And then we that's it. That was it. The dudes.
Yeah, because I remember we were in a drama class together. I remember that. I remember our friendship really kind of taking off in 95, the year we graduated. Because that's when we were just Because I had my 16th birthday at famous Uncle Al's. Because the one over on Indian River. Mike used to work there.
I worked there, Conrad. I was the cook. And my wife, who's downstairs right now, who was so nice to run out and get dinner because Bobby and I were actually talking for about 2.5 hours before we got on this podcast. And I forgot to make dinner and do all the shit that we do now that Mike and Bob show is. And that's just, really great moms and wives because we're that. And I didn't make dinner and she went out and got some Five Guys burgers and fries, which Bobby and I think we were at the grand opening.
We were.
The Five Guys.
We spent a lot of time there. We spent a lot of Wednesdays at Five Guys. Yeah.
Wasn't that ironic that we used to have our summit there, dudes, our summit of dudes back then? And I thought it was funny that you brought it. The universe is crazy.
But yeah, so we kind of started hanging out in 95 a lot. Mike and I, again, like you said, we realized that we were stronger together than apart. And another thing that we did was we used to memorize all the Tribe Called Quest albums, and we would rap Tribe Called Quest to people. And Tribe Called Quest at that time was not the appreciated hip hop act they are now.
Right.
They were very much underground to some extent. Like hip hop kids knew who Tribe Called Quest was, but not the masses. So Mike and I would just rap Tribe Called Quest. He would be Fife and I would be Q-Tip, and we would put our names in the songs, and people thought that we wrote all those rhymes.
So we went with it.
We were very popular. Like we had all of Midnight Marauders memorized.
That Low End Theory was crazy.
Yeah, it was fun. So that's kind of where it all kind of came together for us. Like we had a lot of stuff in common. We had a lot of the same interests. We played NHL 94 a lot. NHL 94.
Yeah, was that Genesis?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. The NHL 94 was a lot of fun because when we got that was great because back then you had to really use your imagination with video games, and we did that. We were never in reality when it came to that stuff. Okay, we would create our own leagues. We'd have a little book like this, right? And in that book, we would keep track of all the stats.
Well, that was later. Wasn't that later?
Well, no, it was. But 94 is what we used to do there. That's where it started. And then in NHL 95, remember they started keeping track of everything for you? Cool. That was awesome. And then we could make trades. Yeah. Like you could literally trade 3 scrubs for Alexander McGillney. Yeah. It was crazy. It was so crazy. And then, and then from there, our video game imaginations never really, with technology getting greater, we never took advantage of technology. Our imaginations got better. And I think that was the beauty of our friendship. And it never really stopped for a very, very long time until we both went a little crazy. But then we might get to that, but that might be for the next podcast, Conrad.
Sure. I want to touch a bit because we all happen to be Sound Sun Devils here. Tell us a little bit about mid-90s in Salem, because it was only 5 years old at the time.
I don't know, man. It was cool. We had fun. we hung out at lunch and like high school was high school, man. Like it was cool. Like Miss, what was her drama teacher's name?
Miss Rupus and Miss Ilson, who I still talk to. Yeah. They're awesome.
Miss Rupus was cool. Miss Ilson was awesome. Miss Evans was cool, who went to Kellum.
Miss Powell, who passed unfortunately.
Who's Miss Powell?
Miss Powell was like my English teacher. She looked like Paula Abdul, was absolutely incredibly attractive. And sadly, like she passed and this is the kind of stuff when you get old and you realize, oh my God, we're not going to be, 20 somethings forever. But, these are the kind of things that happen over time, I guess. It sucks.
You guys know that it's basically a drama institution now. They have a performing arts thing at Salem.
My daughter goes there, Conrad. You think that's weird? Cool. Try sitting in the lunchroom that your daughter sits in, that you met your best friend and your wife at. Crazy.
That'd be weird.
Yeah, it's weird for her. She just makes her very uncomfortable because now she feels the pressure. What do you expect me to meet a husband in the 10th grade? It's like, no fucking way. No.
So
poor kid.
So you guys both graduated in 95. What do you guys look to do specifically right after high school?
Nothing. Nothing. I went to Tidewater Community College because I didn't really care about school. I remember
Salem University, they call it.
I didn't care about high school. I didn't care about learning anything. I just needed to do enough work to get by to finish. That was my mentality. That was my attitude about the thing. I remember being mad at Mike because we had a drama project we had to do in 12th grade that I refused to do because I just wasn't doing it. And Mike did it because he needed to do it to graduate. Like it was one of the things you needed to do to graduate. And I was like, I can't believe you made a diorama of a play. And I was like so mad at you for doing it because it was a chump assignment. It was lame. Why are we doing this?
I would have never graduated if I didn't do it. See, that was the thing. We probably could have thrived in some situations, but I was always like, I got to do the bare minimum to get to the things I really want to do. That has always been, I think, one of the things that Bobby and I have always had in common. We weren't school guys. It doesn't mean that we didn't appreciate the lessons we got from school. We had some really cool teachers who I think without a few of them, I don't know that I would have made it, but it was like, okay, what do I need? A 69.8? Yeah, got it. I knew I would get there. Like we ultimately knew we would get there. And I know that's a bit of a problem and it's not it's not the right thing to say to the children. It's not the right message, but at the same sense, it was like, yeah, do this shit so you can get to the stuff you really want to do and the stuff you're passionate about. That was important.
I mean, the only reason why I have a history degree from Virginia Commonwealth University is because of I can't remember her name, but she was an African-American history teacher in the building. She drove a Dodge Viper. I remember all this weird stuff about her.
Yeah, but her name.
I think it was Miss Williams. I'm not really sure, but she was awesome. She was a great teacher. She really liked me because I was
right in front of the school too.
I was one of the only kids to pass her African-American history test she had in February. Every February she had this test and I was one of the only kids to pass it. So she appreciated me. I really liked her. I really liked her approach to history. So that's the reason why I have a history degree at this point. Granted, I'm not doing anything with it and it's kind of silly to have, but that sparked my interest. And there was a government teacher who taught right next door, an older white guy. I can't remember his name. He was short. He was kind of bald. Little tubby guy. He was a great government teacher. He was fantastic.
I hope he's out there listening right now going, I have a name and it's not little tubby guy.
If I had the yearbook, I'd look it up, but I don't have it on me and like on handy because I didn't read the layout of the interview because I just refused to do it because it's unnecessary.
That's not what we do. That's not, you gotta just kind of shoot from the hip with these kind of things. Let it go where it's going to go.
Conrad is already frustrated. You can tell the look at him.
He hates us already. He hates us. Look at him. This isn't what it was supposed to be.
I listened to it for like a decade. I know you guys.
So I did learn and appreciate certain things about Salem High School, but overall, I didn't do much. I just didn't. I didn't care. I didn't. But that's what makes me mad, though, when people complain about public education, when they're like, oh, man, the public education, they don't teach kids anything. That's not true. It's what the kids take from the public education. That's how far they'll go. There are kids that graduated with us that are doctors and lawyers and stuff because they applied themselves and did the work and put in the effort. I didn't do that. So I can't blame public high school for that. I can't blame the education system. I blame me. It's on me. It's my fault.
It's absolutely on you, and you'll learn it when you want to learn it. And there's no timeline for it. And I think our kids,
technically there is. It's
I'm talking outside, Bobby, of space and time. I'm not talking about the 3 or 4 years you go to high school. Of course I have a 16-year-old, so she's probably listening through the walls going, what is this hypocrite talking about? He wants me to pass all my shit. And she's right. I do want her to pass all her stuff, but I also want her to do what truly makes her happy. And also at 16, what did we know anyway? Nothing. We knew nothing. And we thought we knew everything, but we really knew. I still know nothing. That's what's beautiful.
I ate a lot of hot dogs at 16. That's what I did. I ate a lot of hot dogs.
We hung out at
Famous Uncle
Al's. I worked there. And that was the thing. Like Bobby and I were hanging. Like we were like tight friends. We had our little group of friends. And again, at the time I was dating my wife, I was dating my girlfriend, Heather, at the time. So, a lot of my time went into that. You were still hanging out with Curtis a lot and Josh. And then everybody kind of like went to school and did their thing. And when you went to school, VCU, go Rams. Yes, I know. And then, I know. And when we would come home and we'd like appreciate our relationship a lot more. And we ended up getting really deep into things and getting to know each other past that, to that next level. And we thought this chemistry could really work on the air. And when we had the opportunity, when I was given the opportunity to do a show, not just spin records, which is the most unfulfilling thing in the entire world, just to spin a record and tell somebody, here's the weather, that was Dua Lipa, and let's move on. That's not fun. And people that are doing that and they're saying it's fun, they're lying. They really want to express themselves and they want to put themselves out there and they want to be honest and they want to be vulnerable. And that's what we did. And sometimes to a fault. But when I got the opportunity, they wanted to stick me with somebody else who I barely even knew. And I said, I got a guy, know a guy. And the famous story. This is like something, somebody who's really famous would say, the famous story. We're not, though. It is, the boss goes, well, what does he do? Is he a comic? Is he a stand-up comedian? He's like, no, he goes to college. He's my best friend. He goes to VCU and he's going to come home and let's try something. And boom, we tried something. And thank God it worked in the first couple of months. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
It's true.
Yeah.
So that's
all a true story.
Right? So
yeah, it was 01. I came in and auditioned in like November of 01 because I had graduated in May of 01 from VCU. I was looking to do some things and I was just living in Richmond, waiting tables, enjoying myself. And then the opportunity came along. So I tried out and then that was that. It just kind of worked out.
And you loved Richmond, man. You loved Richmond.
It was a good town. It was a lot of fun. It was a cool place to be for a 22-year-old kid who had a lot of demons and a lot of free capital,
Yeah, plenty of places to go.
Yeah, it was fun, man. I dug Richmond. Was a cool town.
It still is. I go there quite a bit too. Well, I don't get to see a lot of the college basketball games. But
you go there to do political stuff and stuff.
Do you ever do anything shady, Conrad, when you go to Richmond?
Well, I've driven at Richmond Speedway. That's the
really?
Ever got. Yeah.
That's fun. That's fun.
Cool.
In fact, this Sunday I'll be doing Charlotte Motor Speedway. So
you're driving on the course, on the track.
Indeed.
That's kind of neat.
Get about probably 8 laps or so.
Gonna open her up, bro. Gonna open her up.
I'll drop the hammer.
How fast do they let you go on something like that?
This is the Rusty Wallace driving experience. So it's like really, really old cars. And
whoa!
I'd imagine that this is they could go into like 180s into the corner. I'd be doing like 140s.
What? The Rusty Wallace experience.
Wow,
Yeah,
man,
exactly.
that sounds cool.
Wow.
That's awesome. That
That's
sounds fun.
that's the stuff I really like.
How did you get into that? Like, what possessed you to get into that? Is that like passed down from generation to generation?
Basically, the parents like to sit me in front of the television as a way to have me be watched, and I would just watch TV. And what was on at the time in the late 80s and early 90s? ESPN NASCAR. So I became a big fan of that. You guys associated with hockey. I was more NASCAR, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, we were also American football fans too. We would watch the American. We would watch the
Derek Carr jersey right there. So.
We would watch the American Football Giants together every weekend. It's funny now because I live in Cincinnati and I'm a proud member of the Manchester City supporters group here in Cincinnati, Ohio. But we very much had like a New York Giants supporter group at Mike's house. We would gather at Mike's house every week to watch the Giants. It was like you, me, Frankie D, your mom, the Ollie kid. Like we had a lot of dudes that would just come over and watch football. And it was
Sundays were a lot of fun. I mean, and it was more like we were into it to the point where we were just disgusting. You couldn't even be around us. I don't know how anybody sat in any of the other rooms because we were yelling, screaming. There was spitting at the television. It's like, who are those people? Yeah, who the hell are those people?
The thing is, now I do that at a bar in Cincinnati, and it's appreciated. Like people, the dudes in the Manchester City supporters group really appreciate my candor and my commentary on the matches. So
I imagine it's awesome. It's cool because we both shifted. At one time, we just decided like, I think we like soccer. And we both shifted to becoming soccer fans. And when we do something, it's manic. Wow. I mean, we can't just, and you know what? Like, I don't blame us because we've stuck with all of these things. They haven't really gone anywhere. So I'm huge, like Liverpool. I watch it more than I watch the New York Giants now. Same thing with Bobby. I don't even think Bobby I haven't turned on a Giant game in a year, 2 years. It's kind of sad. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I'm just not into American football.
I gave up American football because I disagree with politics, and I disagree with the way they handle certain domestic issues. Once I became a stay-at-home dad, and I heard the story of what's the guy's name who beat his kid with like a. No, that was the first step. This is the guy who beat his kid with the stick. Yeah. And I was done. I was like, I'm not watching. These people are. This is a terrible organization. This is a terrible group. I'm not partaking in this stuff anymore. And I stopped. And I haven't watched it at all.
I like it, man. I like
it. And the thing is, go ahead. Well, I was just going to say.
No, you go.
The thing is, it's like I can choose to be woke about certain things. I don't eat Chick-fil-A.
Interesting.
And I don't watch the National Football League. And I'm cool with that level of wokeness. Like, that's good for me. Like, that's a good spot. Like, I've given money. I gave money to Elizabeth Warren last year. I've given money to Black Lives Matter. I contribute to political causes that I find decent and worthy. But I'm very much like, hey, man, I can't be woke all the time, but I'm not going to eat Chick-fil-A and I'm not going to watch football. And I'm good. And it's a boring game anyway. You just watch a bunch of people standing around in tight pants.
It's a lot of standing around these days. So many commercials. And I know it's like the same things people complain about. Then stop fucking watching. If it sucks that bad, the commercials. Like, it annoyed me, so I kind of stopped watching. And then you're right. It's kind of like I'm down for, believe me, I'm down for forgiveness. I am down for showing people grace to get a little bit better. What I'm not down for is like these dudes coming on with the platform they have and the money they make and not showing any level of social responsibility. And the second they fuck up, it's buried by what is it? Is this the Catholic Church or is this the NFL? What's happening here? What are we burying? And I got tired of that too. So I totally agree with Bobby. And I am woke all the time now. I wish I wasn't, but I walk around enlightened as shit all the time now. And it's not fun. So it's good. Rom.
That's gotta be exhausting.
Oh, it's exhausting. It's exhausting, Bobby.
All right, so what's the next? What can I ask?
Somebody asked a question, though. Somebody asked a question on the bottom, and I'll give it to you. They said, what was the name of the quarterback in Madden?
Mark Rivers.
Mark Rivers, baby.
That was my guy.
Yes, there it is right there from Jason. That was your dude.
I was playing as the San Francisco 49ers, and I drafted Mark Rivers from the University of West Virginia. He was a created player in the game, and I drafted him. He was a left-handed quarterback, and he took the San Francisco Giants to the San
Francisco 49ers
to great heights. We won many a Super Bowl with Mark Rivers as our quarterback.
You just wanted to copy Steve Young?
What's up? No, it was just a guy. It was a guy that the computer created.
Right.
And I just, because in Madden back in the day, you would go through the seasons and do the drafts and all that stuff. And I drafted Mark Rivers in the first round. He turned out to be a legend.
You know what made Mark Rivers so real to me? Not only did he break my heart every year in Madden, and Bobby went on an unbelievable run with Mark Rivers. And awesome. The fact that he was a made-up guy, and this is what really got me and made him so real for me. It was the first year. And some people are going to get this and they're going to laugh at it. And some people it's going to be so foreign. It was the first year the players could blink in Madden. And Mark Rivers, they'd show the close-up of Mark Rivers and
he was number, if I remember correctly, he was number 15.
Number 15, Mark yes. Rivers. And blinking-ass Mark Rivers. And they'd always show him up close. And he was so handsome for the video game. And he was a made-up guy. And he would just destroy me.
I believe I left the 49ers organization at some point. I think I went to the Raiders or somebody, and I traded for Mark Rivers.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, Mark.
I remember that, but the story didn't work out the same.
Didn't.
Well, he didn't have the same magic.
He was older,
Yeah, he was older. That was we were deep. We were deep into franchise mode of Madden at that point. Like I remember when the PlayStation was upstairs in my room when I was in this house, and it's the same house. I'm in the same house. The year Jeremy Shockey became the tight end of the Giants,
he was unstoppable.
Yes, unstoppable.
He is unstoppable.
But you still won the Super Bowl that year because Ike Hilliard dropped a pass in the end zone with no time left.
That's right.
It was one of those things, Conrad, and this is such a great story. We're playing, and Bobby was dominating the game, and then Jeremy Shockey took over. It was the Jeremy and Eli show.
Yeah.
And it's down to like the last play of the game, and I am on maybe the 9-yard line. That's where you want to be at Madden. I don't want to be too close because I can't run the ball in Madden. It was impossible to run the ball in Madden at that time. So what you were expecting Shockey. You set it up. Ike Hilliard cut out. There he was, wide open. There you go, Ike Hilliard. This son of a bitch did this in Madden. All right, Ike Hilliard video game number 88. Caught it, and then went. What the? And it was over. And it was over.
That was fun. I remember that specifically. That was cool.
Oh, dude, we were going nuts. I believe Heather came in and yelled at us. We were so loud. This was like one of those, like, should we be up this late? Should we play the Super Bowl tonight? I don't know.
Well, that happened. That happened 1 year, too, after Middies when we went out and we came home and we were in no condition to do much of anything. And I had the Super Bowl and I was like, I'm going to play.
I was watching.
And I played. Yeah. I played the Super Bowl against the computer, and I lost. It was such a bummer.
You were so pissed.
I was so mad. Well, because I was feeling good, man. I thought me and Mark Rivers were just going to take over, but
that was the beginning of Mark Rivers' downfall. Like if you were watching his E! True Hollywood Story, it was that night where Mark Rivers left Middies too drunk, and he played the Super Bowl drunk.
And he didn't. It didn't work out. I almost won too, but no, it didn't work out. I lost. That was a bummer.
just remember the level of pissed off you were. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was really bad.
And I was like, is he mad at me? I was like, I didn't do anything. I'm just sitting here enjoying the game.
Yeah,
we used to actually enjoy watching each other's games too. It was really funny. It was really funny.
No condition to play.
How often you guys would play each other?
Oh well, we played each other a lot in Madden, but I think we were at one point we were in the same conference, so we would always play each other in the conference finals. But then the best games we played and it was NHL 2002. Was it 2002? Because we were actually on the same team. So
yes, we were the Blackhawks.
We were running. This is when the Blackhawks were terrible. So we were running the Blackhawks, and we got the Blackhawks all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals, and we won Game 7 in overtime.
Yeah, double overtime. Marian Hossa, remember? We traded for him, and he got it. Yeah. How do we remember that stuff, man? It's crazy. We can't remember the teachers that changed our life, but we remember the video games that shaped us.
Team.
Yes, the Admirals were with the Blackhawks at that point, which also made it kind of fun too, because some of the dudes we knew from the team got better in the game as you progressed through the season. So we called them up to the big club. It was fun. We had a lot of fun playing video games. And a lot of that, we were talking earlier today, Mike and I were speaking, how we were just broadcasting our friendship over the airwaves. So the conversations you heard on the air were conversations that we had in person. And sometimes the conversations we were having off air, we would stop and go, no, let's save this for the air. So we would go on to do that. And yes, I mean, I remember specifically, we would take days off from work because it was opening day. We broadcasted from my house many opening days with the new watching the Mets. We would take off days for, I got, I remember someone using a new refrigerator as an excuse to stay home and play Madden. Yeah. Our program director at the time would let us take Madden day off, and we would broadcast from Mike's house and play Madden and talk about the new game. Like, that's just kind of what we did. You know, it was weird. It was a weird time. It was a simpler time. It was easy.
The best part about that was, though, the fact that that's what we wanted to do, and that's what we were doing, and that's what would have been broadcasted anyway. So it was more real because we'd have all the dudes over too at one point. Like, people would just come over, and we'd have the mic set up and the whole thing, and we were so tight. We were such a tight knit group that one of our best friends who's still in our lives, like Thaddeus, our friend Thad, he would just set it up for us. Like, he knew how to do everything. So he'd be over anyway. You got to understand, all the people we were hanging with would have been over anyway. Yeah. We would have been out with them. We would have been hanging out. If there wasn't a radio show, Bobby and I would have been hanging out just doing this. So that's what we did. And then we just decided to broadcast it. And it seemed to work, I guess.
I mean, if you remember, we used to do a radio show in your bedroom. Like, we would hang out on your 4-track and set up mics and just talk to each other. And we would interview our friends who had things going on. Like, one of our friends, Josh, he was at the governor's school in downtown Norfolk, and he had plays, and we would interview Josh about his play. And we would just so we were always kind of performing on some level. Whether it was, we had a rap group. Mike and I rapped for a while. It was just fun. It was just what we did. We just always were kind of performing. So this just made sense for us to do. And we just did it. And we did it really well for a really long time.
That was a VDG, right?
No. Mike and I, it was me. Okay. Yeah, this was in high school. This was Mike, myself, and my friend Curtis. We would just hang out at Mike's house, and Mike would play the drums, and he would play live drums. And then, we would loop it, and then we would just kind of rap over it. It was really fun. We had a really good time.
Yeah, had all these instruments. And I remember we would make these beats after a lot of the beats you would hear on Ill Communication or something. And it's just it was really cool. It was a time where people were singing out of the Taco Bell speaker box.
Yeah.
Feel too, So we were just always having a good time. And yes, we were performing, but we were just doing what we wanted to do. It was a really, really good time. And
we kind of brought that attitude to the radio show, because for us, at least for me, it was very much okay, cool, I'll do this for 6 months and then I'll go back to school. But it turned into 10 years, and it was a lot of fun.
Crazy.
Yeah. I want to touch on that because I'm kind of like a halfway radio geek, and because I know some of the big names. I mentioned Mancow earlier because that's what started me at 96X back when I was in high school. I don't even know if he's still doing anything.
I don't know where he is.
He's working somewhere, but he's a hack.
Yeah. I wasn't a fan.
We all know about Howard Stern, of course. I love listening to political radio, so I know about Rush Limbaugh, Neil Boortz, Hannity, also local guys like Tony McCraney, and we all know about Tony Mercurio over in sports. So how did you guys approach that show, like just bringing your life into a show? What was that angle like? And did you copy any other formats, or did you like, this is going to be all ours?
I would say we couldn't have copied a format because there was no format at all whatsoever. And it was such a blessing because, you don't realize what freedom that is and what a gift that is until it's taken away from you. And to have that freedom to just go on and, like, especially when you're younger, it's you're being yourself, but you're also trying to find yourself. And that's what it was. We were growing up on the radio. I run into people that's like, we used to listen to you on the way home from work. We used to listen to you in high school. I grew up. When I hear I grew up with your show, I'm like, geez, like what? What is that? What? Like, how old am I? And and it was just constantly evolving and finding ourselves and learning about each other, about our listeners, and a lot of our listeners became friends. That's how it works. That's how it worked for us. And it would not have worked any other way. If we shunned people away and just kind of kept it for ourselves, I don't know that it would have resonated the same way. It's like it was all inclusive for everybody. And it was I believe it was one of the first shows that really did that. Like, we had our moments, like our cancel them moments. Believe me, we've chatted about that, but we've also had moments of going, man, you didn't have to be anything. You didn't have to try to be anything. You didn't have to be cooler than you were. You just had to be you. And everybody loved you for it. Everybody made fun of you for it. It was pretty cool.
How did you come up with the games and the sound bites and the bits? How did you string it all together?
The games were just, you would just do a game that they did on TV forever and just try to bring it to the radio. The sound bites were more organic because it would just be something that was hot in our existence at the moment. Like, I remember that one Christmas break where Rocky was on cable nonstop, and then we just came back and just played Mr. T Drops nonstop. Yeah. Hey, woman. Hey, woman. I still do that to this day. Like, I still do that.
None of that goes ever anywhere.
Yeah,
why don't you come on over and get yourself a real man?
Yeah. So like that just happened. That just happened organically because it was something we spent an entire winter break just watching Rocky. So it was fun to kind of bring this stuff to the forefront. Same thing happened with like Ric Flair, where like I don't know how we were watching something on YouTube and like all these Ric Flair drops were wonderful. And we just started playing these Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes promos nonstop on the radio. And like, it just became a world of its own for us. And we just did it.
That was great.
It was so it happened very organically. Like, it was something, it's not like we went out and said like, what's cool now? Because I can honestly say, and I don't want to sound like a crazy person because I do sound like a crazy person sometimes, but I think we were the NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions was very big in Norfolk, Virginia. And Ric Flair was in that wrestling organization. So it had its roots there, bro. But I think we brought a lot of that stuff. I think we brought a lot of that stuff back. Yeah. At least locally, like the appreciation for Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes and the old wrestling promos. I think that was all the Mike and Bob show. I'm not afraid to say it.
And I also know for a fact that we did a lot of things in chatter, talk, that kind of evolved and made its way into pop culture.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy. Crazy. Remember the space thing that we did? We're like, that's my space boots. Those are my space. That's my space shirt. And the next thing you know, we're like, we started seeing it places, and then it was on, what's the show, the cartoon? Wasn't it on that?
Guy.
Yeah, it was on that. Get My Bags. Yeah, it had to happen organically in our lives, and it had to really resonate and make us giggle. And then we knew if it did, we can bring it to people. Or this was the beauty of what, like, to tie it into the last answer, our friends were instrumental in that. They would just bring stuff. You're like, hey, have you seen this yet? This is awesome. And next thing you know, we're watching well, if you take 99 and 6 and 2/3% chance, and you're going through all that stuff, and I'm going like, that stuff is still with me. All of that stuff, it's gone nowhere. I have not moved it out of my brain to make room for something else. It still lives there.
Yeah, but the shitty part about it is you have to explain it to people who don't know it.
That sucks.
When you say like, if you will, like why are you doing that? Like, why? It's like,
you understand.
Because Dusty Rhodes, and they're like, who's Dusty Rhodes? You're like, well, back in 2006. But yeah.
Conrad, you came on and you were doing your opening monologue and you said, if you will. And I texted Bobby, if you will, just like that. I mean,
you know what? Like not to promote another show or anything, but Mike, do yourself a favor. Tony Schiavone does a podcast called What Happened When, and right now they're watching all of the old NWA show from 1986. So like they're watching all the 86 stuff and they're talking about it, and you just hear all the promo. God, it's good. It's so good.
It's so fun. The other, I guess it was January. My daughter had her Sweet 16, which is crazy because I remember being on the radio and telling everybody, "Oh my God, we're pregnant, we're having all that stuff." So here we are. I have a 16-year-old, and I was like, "What do you do for a 16-year-old in a pandemic?" Well, I got her a limousine a mile long, 37 girls in the back. Oh, dude! So I got this limousine, and I didn't even get to ride in the limousine. I had to take all the kids' bags because we got them this room at the hotel, and the girls were all going to go, and Heather was going, so they all went in the limousine, and the whole time, all I'm doing is texting her memes like a 13-year-old girl of Ric Flair, and it was just ridiculous. And she's like, "Yeah, this is great, Dad." I'm like, just laugh at it, please, humor me.
There was a time, I think it was right around when Chappell got married, where all we were doing was Ric Flair stuff. Like, I remember going to like remotes. I remember going to remotes and like just doing Ric Flair quotes on the microphone at remotes, just going like, dance all night long, look good, smell good, dance all night long. And like, I got a limousine outside a mile long and just everything. And that was our existence. And I just feel bad for the people that lived in our bubble, like your wife, my wife, and had to listen to this nonsense. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad.
Because the nonsense didn't end at 6 or 7 o'clock. It never ended. That was the son of a bitch.
That's right. I forgot we did the 7 o'clock hour. Do you remember when they gave us the extra hour? Shoes.
We did 6 to 7.
Yeah.
My shoes
cost more than your house.
I got leather shoes.
I got these gears
on. This is great.
Michael,
rattle it off at any time.
Well, when we interviewed him, remember interviewing him was so much fun. I got to meet Dusty Rhodes. Like, I met him.
That's crazy.
I went to the event because he was promoting an event in town, and he came, and I have my arm around Dusty Rhodes, a picture of me and Dusty Rhodes.
It's a great picture. It's a great
picture.
And
I remember this is one of my favorite stories. The guy who used to run the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling would bring the wrestlers up to us, and he brought Nikita Koloff. And I thought Nikita Koloff was really a Russian guy because my whole life he was a Russian guy. And when he spoke not Russian, I was so mad. But J.J. Dillon was in there, and Magnum TA, and Nikita Koloff, and Tully Blanchard was supposed to be there.
Definitely Tully Blanchard, you understand.
And the thing is, growing up, I hated Tully Blanchard's guts. I hated him. He was the perfect heel. Everybody hated Tully Blanchard. So Tully Blanchard was supposed to come up, but he called in. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Tully Blanchard called in because he was stuck in traffic. So we interviewed Tully Blanchard over the phone. We had a good interview with him. We hung up the phone. The next week, the guy came back with other people, and I was like, man, you know what? Tully Blanchard wasn't stuck in traffic. He was playing golf and just didn't want to come into the show.
That's right.
Like,
oh, my God.
Son of a gun.
That definitely Tully Blanchard. It worked out perfectly because he was the heel you wanted him to be.
Yeah,
he just tried to manipulate us.
He was so on brand. It was perfect. God, that was awesome. Like,
yes.
I just wish we took pictures with all these people. Don't you ever feel that way? Like, we stopped and
we have the picture with Rerun. That's it.
Yeah.
Like Rerun from What's Happening. That was cool. Yeah, that was cool. But then Rerun wanted money afterwards or something. Remember that? God rest his soul. Yeah. The interviews were always really, really fun because when people came in, they were expecting to get the regular question let's just do the top 5 questions and move on. And next thing you know, we're having these really deep conversations with people you didn't know would get that deep, to the point where there were times where people left. Jamie Kennedy, who freaked out, called the radio station, be like, can we not air that? It's like, can we not air it? It was just live for an hour and a half. Can we not air it? At the time, there was this comedian who just got broken up with by, what's her face?
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Jennifer Love Hewitt. And she was huge at the time. And he came on and we were talking to him about it. And he was just distraught and crying. And we were having this shit. It went from being really funny and weird to being really heartfelt, and we felt good when he left. Like he was
kind of therapeutic. Yeah,
he was hugging us when he left, and then we get a phone call from the comedy club saying, like, take all that down, cease and desist, blah blah blah. Jamie Kennedy's freaking out. We're like, why is he freaking out? We're friends. We're his therapists.
Yeah.
Why this is it was like at that level. And if people didn't want to play along, we didn't mind if they left. Like, it was never a thing like we'd get, I can't believe this person's here. Maybe that happened a couple of times, but if you came on, we were just going to treat you like a dude and get along and accept you for who you are.
I remember us kicking Jared Leto out of the studio, and because he was a total douche. We interviewed him on 2 occasions.
Seems like he would be that time.
He is. And both times he was terrible.
He sucked. He just sucked as a person at the time. Maybe he's great now. I don't know.
No, he's not. He's not
great yet?
No,
okay.
Not as the Joker.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad to hear that.
That was one of the interviews that I remember specifically. I remember Tracy Morgan. Do you remember Tracy Morgan?
Sick.
Tracy Morgan came on and he was insane. He did like 40 minutes. We stopped and we were like, Trace, that was wonderful. You were so great. Oh my God, that was wonderful. And he says, yo, that's the same stuff I gave Howard Stern too, son. That's the same stuff I gave Stern. I said, oh, that's awesome. That's cool. Yeah. He's like, yo, when you guys going to play that? And we were like, no, dude, that was live. Like you were on the air. And he left so fast after that. Like he was gone. Like the wind just bang, gone. Never saw Tracy Morgan again. It was. I
couldn't believe the stuff that was coming out. It was so like honest and real. A couple of curse words, but we had the delay.
It was real dirty.
Like a 15-second delay or something like that.
I believe the line. The line I remember specifically from Tracy Morgan was his fingers smell like hot wings and Marlboro cigarettes. That's the smell, and white girls' buttholes. Like that's the smell of despair. And it was. I mean, he was insane, and it was so much fun. We were just able to kind of bring the realness out of people. And I remember being in the studio with comedians that I loved and respected, like Dave Attell. We made Dave Attell laugh. Yeah. Like that was a great feeling. Like to get comedians to laugh at our jokes was always the best because it was like a sign of respect. Like they get it. Like they understand what's going on. They know why they're here. You know, like we treated them as real people and not just, okay, give us your 5 minutes and hey, we're going to set you up. You knock them down.
They didn't have to do their act. They didn't have to do their act when they came in. And I thought that was cool. And, when they'd go on other shows, they would give the act. And, I remember on many, many occasions, they would say afterwards, hey, thanks for not letting me give away all my jokes tonight, because that's the joke they would have been doing at the comedy club or wherever it is that they were playing. And I thought that was really cool. And at the time, you don't even realize that like you're creating a space like that for somebody, but we did. We did. And we did it pretty effortlessly. And that's pretty cool to think about. I'm proud of that, and I didn't even know it was happening at the time.
Yeah, it was cool.
Well, I also appreciate the chemistry that you guys had throughout the rest of the team and the sort of showmates. And I didn't listen much at the start, so I didn't get to hear Bubba. But there's so many others. I'll just name a few like Torres and Chaps and Mustache, who commented on one of the ones earlier tonight.
Mustache lives in Charlotte now. He moved to Charlotte.
That I did not know.
Yeah, he lives in Charlotte. He lives in Charlotte, North Carolina. Like a lot of those kids, man. Like our first intern was a kid named Eugene.
Eugene was cool.
Eugene was a cool kid. We had Eugene's brother who came in. We had
that was his name, Eugene, and then Eugene's brother.
And he was, and like these kids, like I knew them growing up. Like I used to babysit Eugene and Eugene's brother when I was a kid. They were family friends. Like they were wonderful kids. And Eugene now lives in New York City, and he's like a stay-at-home parent, and he's a wonderful guy. He's a musician. He's a great dude. Like Eugene's brother went off and like joined the army, and now he's like a field medic and stuff like that. And he works in Pittsburgh. And these were real, but they were people that we knew. Like when we met Alfredo Torres, Alfredo Torres was our first listener. He would win Admirals tickets, and he'd come to the Admirals games and hang out with us. And we just enjoyed his company and thought he was funny. So he invited him up to the show. Yeah. And he would hang out on the show with us. And like, these were real organic relationships. If you got on the show, it was because we took a shining to you, and we thought you had something to offer. Like, no, there were no free rides.
Right. And you didn't have to offer anything but being a friend.
And being honest.
And being honest.
And allowing yourself to kind of wear egg on your face and to be, the butt of a joke, because it all came around to everybody. Sometimes it seemed like Torres took it more than Slightly or Manny or whoever. But I mean, it was all coming from a place of love and understanding. Like I wouldn't have had those. I wouldn't have said the things that I said to Terrence, the black nerd, if I didn't love him. I wouldn't have said those things. I wouldn't have said those. Yeah, I wouldn't have said those things to Slightly if I didn't love him. If I had no love for you, there would be no words. I wouldn't say anything.
Yeah,
that was the truth.
They wouldn't come out. It wouldn't come out the same way. And a lot of people don't realize that, and that's a hard thing in today's world to realize. But there's also I do take some responsibility as well. And Bobby and I this was a part of our 2-hour conversation earlier. Like there are apologies that I have made, because at the time, we both were just putting ourselves out there fully. There wasn't anything that we left off the radio. So we couldn't wrap our minds around somebody that couldn't do that. And that was our own fault. I take total responsibility for that. Like I've had heart-to-hearts with Slights, who, again, Slights, Torres, still very, very close, and they're still very much a part of our lives. And I love. Oh yeah, you don't want a mustache, you're never gonna fucking get one. So stop. Don't even ask. You fell asleep on the show more times than I knew what to do with. And I got called. All right, I'm mustache. I love you. I'm sorry.
To be fair, though, he was pretty drunk.
I know. I'll get the mustache in a second. Tell you why he's not getting an apology. But no, I had these sit downs with the boys, and I was like, it wasn't always. I know it wasn't always fun, because I also know it wasn't always fun for me at times. And there were times that I even put stuff out that I was like, this could not be fun for me, for my wife, for my children, and you kind of, as you get older, you understand that a little bit more. Sometimes you can't stop yourself, but you can't understand it. And fucking Mustache is not getting an apology because he used to fall asleep right behind me with his foot on my chair and doing like this with his foot the whole time, just like bumping his foot. And one time I was like, Mustache, I keep cursing, but like, get off my chair. This is ridiculous.
Remember?
And
but Mustache was a good dude though, man.
He's a great dude. I love that guy.
Yeah. But
it's not a bad, I have no bad ill will towards him. I'm just breaking his stones.
And remember when he got attacked by the dog when we sang that? It was Mustache took his lumps. But, there was also a lot of benefits to be reaped from the radio show. And I think we had a lot of fun. But it was all done out of love, man. But Mike and I were talking earlier. You mentioned some of the games, some of the stuff. I think if we tried to do now, I don't think we would do, because we're different people. We have different perspectives on life and the universe and things of that nature. So, there were things that we did that were definitely problematic. There were things that we did that were kind of misogynistic and somewhat rude to people. And for that, I think we've grown, we've changed, we're different people now. I think that's one thing that the show would be very different now. We
not that different.
To an extent. We come from a different place. And I think even if you listen to like Stern nowadays, like Stern's in a totally different place because humans evolve. Like that your perspective on life evolves. And if you're not evolving, then what are you doing?
Yeah, and I think it kind of bums me out when, you know, people don't give another person the grace to make mistakes and figure themselves out. It sucks that we're always doing that. Like, especially now, it's like you paint somebody as the bad guy because you need to be the good guy when everybody's just in this gray area anyway. So that's a big thing. That's where I think the show would come from now. We're really kind of open to everything and attached to nothing and constantly learning. And I think that's really, really important. It doesn't mean we're any less funny or outgoing or, you know, any of those things. I just think you just keep learning more about yourself, and then you become a little more honest with yourself. And in turn, you become a better, like, I think what's made me a better broadcaster over the years, and I never even realized it, was just listening, not communicating, not being the guy that has to fill every single space with a word, but listening. And I said that to Bobby earlier. I said, I used to just love, because Bobby would always paint me as like a storyteller and all that stuff. But I said, I used to love just sitting back and listening to somebody else's story, listening to Bobby's story. I got a kick out of it because there's always something in both of us that we didn't want to be, believe it or not, and it's very weird, we did not want to be the center of attention all the time. We wanted to take a step back and let other, that's why everybody got on and everybody had their moments. And it was like Torres is shining this week and Mustache is shining this week. But we didn't have the knowledge then to express it this way, I think.
You mentioned that you liked to be able to evolve, and you guys have evolved now. You had to go to the morning, and then you went back to the afternoon. You guys gave the sports show a shot.
The sports show was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing the sports show, and I really felt that if we ever transitioned out of FM talk, we could have done like a sports radio show. It was a lot of fun. I think because Jake was great. Like, we had a really good producer. The Olin
kid was awesome. Yeah,
he was fantastic. I thought that was somewhere for us to go, but I mean, with that channel at the time, it was very much of a place in flux. That 8:50 a.m. they didn't really know what they wanted to do with it, so they weren't really going to commit long term to anything, which was fine. But I mean, they asked us to do it. It was an experience for us to do. I really enjoyed it. It was cool. I liked the sports show. Yeah.
I think at the time they didn't have the 96.5 part when you guys are doing it. I think now
I don't know.
Have a larger audience now.
Yeah, I think if it would have been given the time to evolve into something, we would have figured out a niche to where, we'd have the sports in there and we'd have the personality and we'd have who we are in there. And we were still trying to figure out, I think when you go into something new like that, you're so used to watching all of these other people that you kind of idolize because we were big sports fans. So we thought we had a little bit of that in us still. We found ourselves on the radio, and then we go to this whole other format. And it's like, okay, now we got to find ourselves over here. We weren't quite sure if we were going to be accepted by the sports community. Little did we know that the people from the other show would just follow us over to this show. But yeah, I mean, if we would have been given the time, I really think we would have figured it out. Very much like the end of the radio show too. Like, we were both going through things, and we were both, kind of blindsided by it all. And I think if we would have been given the time to figure out the climate changing in radio, we would have done that. But I still believe that we deserved that opportunity. But I'm, with that being said, I am forever grateful to the Sinclair family, and I know that's very, because a lot of people, they see what happened on the outside and the Virginia Pilot article, and it sucks that if you were to Google the Mike and Bob Show today, that would be the first thing you see. Mike and Bob Show canceled.
Or the articles.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Jesus. And then, you scroll down, and then they literally shut down all of our websites, all of you guys, all the listeners. But the first comment you see on the Virginia Pilot, well, they sucked anyway, or something along those lines. And
Mike,
you go
you never read the comments, bro. You never read the comments. That you should know that.
Yeah.
That's
I know. I know, but that was like that. We were doing what we thought we'd be doing for the rest of our lives. I mean, at that time, I was like, we're going to do this forever. And if there was a moment And there was, and Bobby and I swear to you today, Conrad, we were on the phone for over 2 hours, just talking,
we talk for hours, then we talk for more hours,
and then more hours. and it was really, it was nice. We needed that. We haven't had that in a really, really long time. And I'm confident we would have figured it out, just like we're figuring out our lives now. It ain't perfect, but we would have got there.
I noticed you stayed in radio in the area. So how did you go over to McCraney? You didn't seem like, not that you don't know about politics. I don't know if you don't know about politics, but that's like a whole different type of show. How did you go over to that?
I think, well, their perspective was, Mike has 17 years experience on the radio. He's still young. We could transition him into doing this. When McCraney retires, and McCraney's still doing it. McCraney's one of the best I've ever heard in my entire life. I mean, the guy is absolutely brilliant, and he really could have gone anywhere at any time. And he stayed here. I mean, lucky for the Hampton Roads natives. That's awesome. I think for me, I didn't give a shit. And I was so checked out the last 6 months of the existence of the show, the moving in and out of mornings. And I was bummed because, again, I was in love with still the idea of what we had. And it was slowly being taken away from us by people that had really no vested interest other than their own interest. And that has nothing to do with, again, the Sinclairs or anybody. Like I said, I love that family, and I'm so grateful for every opportunity they've ever given to us.
Can I jump in there? Can I jump in there?
Yeah,
too?
sure, please.
Because I feel very similar about the Sinclair family as well. I remember when Bob let me go, he brought me into his office, and I sat there with him and we chatted for a minute. And I told him, I said, dude, thank you so much, because you had no idea who I was. You had never met me before. You gave me a chance. You gave me an opportunity to do something that turned into something that I really loved doing. And you didn't have to do that, and you did. And I will forever be grateful to that dude for the opportunity that he gave us, because we enjoyed a lot of success there, man. I bought a house. I met my wife. We had a kid. This was all kind of built on that shot, those 3 days in November of 2001. We were able to kind of live a really privileged life because of the Sinclair family. And I don't think I ever really got the chance to express that to him, because, time and what it was, but I never really did. But it was a bummer, man. And I respect that guy. So thank you very much. I know he's not ever going to do this, but it's just some it's just some gratitude, and even, Lisa and Bob Jr., they were all great people to us, man, Yeah.
I think you realize too, even the gripes that you had and the disagreements you had back in the day, they were doing at the time what they were supposed to be doing. And we thought we were doing what we were supposed to be doing. And then as time goes on, you really see it for what it is. And, I think about my wedding. They were at my wedding, they know my children's name. I remember bringing Marie up there, because I was visiting chapel, and I hopped up there and then ran into everybody. And it was a love fest. It's kind of like, when somebody dies and all of a sudden they become a saint. It was so good. It was so good. But it felt good. And it felt like, yeah, you know what? I may not be there anymore, but I can honor the time there. Yeah. It took a long time for me to figure that out. It took a long time for me to figure that out when people will come up and say, oh God, I missed the show. I love the show. I missed the show. And part of me would get so uncomfortable, and now all I do is say thank you, and that's how I really feel. Nothing more than that. It's just like thank you. It's such a good feeling, and I get a kick out of it. My children get a kick out of it, and that's something that most people in life never get to experience. I did something that I was so proud of, and here I am.
it's funny because my daughter was born the day we moved back to mornings in 2010. My son was born in 2012, so I had been off the radio for 2 years at that point. And like I talked about the show to my kids, and they just, they're surprised that I ever had a job because they've never known me as an employee. I've always just been a dad. I've never had a job. So my son was like, "You never worked." And Bobby's the kind of 8-year-old kid that's his honesty is unmatched, and he will just tell you how he feels at any moment, at any time, and it's wonderful to hear. But he was like, "You got fired? You must have been terrible at your job." And it's really, but it's so funny to listen to because he has no frame of reference who I used to be, and part of me really appreciates that because there'd be a lot of weird conversations that I'd have to have with like, what did you mean about that? You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of nice to have been able to live, I've lived 2 lives. Like I lived this Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads celebrity life. And then I just kind of transitioned into being a stay-at-home dad. And
science says you die every 7 years and reborn. So there you have it.
Yeah.
As Bill Belichick said, we're on to Cincinnati. What did it take to get you out to Cincinnati? What were the opportunities that you saw?
And, in Virginia Beach, there wasn't really a lot of opportunities for me and my family. My wife is a photographer by trade. She was trying to run her own business. I tried to do the podcasting thing that didn't quite work out. I thought we were a bit ahead of our time at that point, and there just wasn't a lot going. So Stephanie and I, at a time, I was working at like an insurance agency, like jockeying phones and listening to podcasts. So I was collecting, like I was making samples. I was making tapes, sending them out to radio stations, and Stephanie was sending her portfolios out to businesses. And like, it was basically whoever gets the job first will work. Like, that's what we'll do. Cause we were living at her parents' house. We were like teen momming it up, bro. Like it was weird. We had a 2-year-old and my wife was pregnant with our second child at the time. So we were just looking for any opportunity, and she applied for a job on LinkedIn. She applied on a Sunday. She got a call on a Monday. We drove out to Kentucky on a Friday, and that was it. It all happened so quickly, and she got this opportunity, and it was just kind of, we have to go west, young man, go where the jobs are. And that's really what brought us out here. There was some freedom in it for me because what I was doing at the time, I was waiting tables at Olive Garden, for God's sakes, because I needed health insurance for my family, so it was a lot of like, oh man, I remember you used to be on the radio. And it was this thing that I couldn't really escape. I was having trouble dealing with constantly being reminded of my failure, because like Mike said, if you Google the Mike and Bob show, the first thing that comes up is we got fired, so it casts a failure like that casts a long shadow. And so we just did what we had to do, and we got out of Dodge, and here we are. It's been 8 years. We've lived here for 8 years. It's been a wonderful journey, and I really dig what we're doing. Do I miss doing radio? Yeah, I do. I told Mike today, and I've told my wife this. The one thing that I felt like I was always really good at, the thing that I was probably best at, I might not ever do again, and that's a weird feeling to have at like 42, because I'm 42 years old now. I feel like a great tennis player who peaked at 32, and that's it. Like they're done. Like what does Andre Agassi do with the rest of his life? You know what I'm saying? Like he's a young man, but he left tennis at a young age because that's your career span. Like we were like football players. We just became, you're 32, you're done. Figure it out. And so
I spent all the money.
Yeah.
Where'd the money go? What's happening?
Yeah. So we
just Antoine Walker way.
Yeah. So here we are, man. And I mean, Cincinnati, it's a weird place. I've lived here for 8 years, and I still drive around sometimes going, it's weird that I live here. Like it's weird being in Cincinnati.
It is weird you live there.
It is.
It is very weird.
But it's been wonderful for our family. It's been wonderful for my wife. It's been wonderful for my kids. So, I mean, yeah, man, you just make sacrifices. Sometimes you have to do it, and here we are.
Like, tell me how the idea to finding Jameson's came around, and what it's like down the whole decades plus of building it.
Conrad, you're a great interviewer because the timeline of you're setting up with the interviews, it's like perfect, the questions. So I just want to say that. Well, the Fighting Jamesons was going on towards the end of the Mike and Bob show. And I was just goofing off. We would just get these crazy harebrained schemes and we would follow through with them. I mean, at one point, little Nick Chappell was going to be the tin whistle player in the Fighting Jamesons. And I honestly, like, I've always played and loved music, and I needed something else because and it's weird because I know, like, I see like a fat Spider-Man in a comment, and I'm sitting here getting all deep, going like, just play Fat Spider-Man, Mike, and shut up. But I was looking for something because I was really not happy towards the end because I felt like we lost the ability to do really what we wanted to do, and I was just like grasping for something, and it wasn't that I wasn't passionate about it. I started, the band on a fluke. Next thing you know, we learned 5 songs. Next thing you know, we learned 10 songs, and next thing you know, like, we're opening up for the Dropkick Murphys, and it all came from relationships through the radio station and the radio show, I should say, and it has nothing to do with the work of the band. The band, like, they worked their ass off, and every member of that band had something to do with its success. But like, when I finally ended my first stint in radio, it had been a few months since the show had been off the air, and I had to be honest with myself. It wasn't there anymore. I did not want to do it. I did not want to be creative. I did not want to study. I didn't want to be in politics anymore. I didn't want to do any of it. I didn't want to do any of it. So I was like, I'm going to play music, and I'm going to get kind of lost in this for a little while. And it was a selfish and shitty thing to do at the same time, because it required me to go on the road and leave my wife with 2 kids when I'm going out 2-3 weeks at a time. Part of me is not happy with myself sometimes when I think about, like, it didn't have to be that way, but maybe it did in order for me to get here now. And when the opportunity came along for me to get back in radio, I didn't want to at first. I'm glad I did now. I kind of found myself, and I didn't need anybody else to tell me how to do it, who to do it. I didn't need to lean on anybody. I work with Woo Woo, and she's an amazing talent, and she's an amazing talent with or without me, and I could be an amazing talent with or without her, but together we're doing really well together, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. And I think the more and more I go on through this thing, the more and more I keep finding things about myself that I'm letting go of, and other things that I'm gravitating towards. So, the band and music being one of them, but doing it the right way, not as an escape from anything. I'm not trying to do that anymore.
Bob, I remember how the show wasn't designed to be about one particular type of topic. Many different things could come up suddenly, from restaurants to food, wrestling. Of course, I don't know much about wrestling, but I did know a little bit about sports. I knew a little bit about comics. In fact, one of my favorite memories from the show was your reaction to the claim that Captain America was on performance-enhancing drugs. That's why I find it cool that you've gotten into freelance writing. You've created many things like Monty the Dinosaur, Spirit of 666, Ninja Nuns, and Metal Shark Bro. So break down your projects and how you took those interests and created your own out of it.
I got back into comics when I stopped drinking, because my alcoholism was such a all-encompassing activity that when I quit doing it, I had a lot of free time, surprisingly, and I needed to find another outlet. And so Mike Federale, the writer and creator of Fat Spider-Man, was also into comics. So Mike and I would just talk about writing comics, about books. I would just, I started reading comics nonstop, and him and I would talk about writing stuff. And so then I just started writing comics because I always had an interest in writing. Obviously, we were doing the show. It wasn't a sit down, type out bits thing, but it was still very much a creative process in a writing fashion. But I've always had an interest in it. And I just kind of took to it because I really didn't have anything else going on, to be honest with you. I wrote a series back in Virginia Beach called 41 that wasn't very good, but it wasn't supposed to be because it was the first thing I'd ever written. I didn't have an editor. I didn't have a letterer. Like, it was very kind of crudely put together. But as I learned and progressed in my career and my journey in comic writing, I got better. The first thing I ever had published was Monty the Dinosaur, which was a present for my 4-year-old daughter at the time. She was super into dinosaurs because we were at the museum center here in Cincinnati and they had a dinosaur exhibit. So she asked me to tell her a story about a dinosaur. So I came up with Monty, and the good ones became the stories you saw in the book, and the bad ones are forgotten forever, which is kind of fun. So it came from a real place of like love and honesty with Sophie because she was so interested in it. And then I just kept doing it because I really enjoyed it. And it was a way to fill the time because, you know, I can't be a parent all the time. And I'm a creative. Like, Mike, you know this too. If I'm not creating, I'm not really happy.
Yeah.
Like, I have to be creating on some level. It kind of goes back to when we were in high school, when we were just kind of performing all the time, like doing these things. I need to feel creative. I need to get that out of me or I'm not really happy. So I started writing more. I hooked up with a dude named Kevin Cuff, who is also a writer. He lives in Williamsburg. Funny enough, I met Kevin way, way back in the day at Middies. He was in a band, and dudes in bands would always be nice to Mike because they wanted to play his songs on the radio. And I was real drunk one night and I told Kevin to eat shit and whatever. The funny part is I have no recollection of this, but Kevin remembers. But Kevin and I started writing books together, and it just kind of snowballed. We came up with Metal Shark Bro. After one Hampton Comic Con, I was driving home. Mike, you'll dig this story. I was driving home from Hampton to Cincinnati, and it was like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I was listening to some radio station, and they had a DJ on who was voice tracked. And he came back on, and he was like, "Yeah, man, that was AC/DC. Hey, come to find out, there's a study in the news, man. Come to find out that scientists put speakers in the water to see how the fish would react to the sounds. Come to find out, sharks dig metal. Coming up next, we got Tom Petty and so. And I heard this radio break, and I just started laughing my ass off. It was just such a weird thing. And I called Kevin, who worked for Coca-Cola at the time as like a distributor. I called Kevin, and I knew to be awake. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. I was on, that stretch of 64 between Virginia and West Virginia where it gets real kind of foggy and dark.
Yes.
I called Kevin, and I was like, "Dude, sharks dig metal." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Dude, sharks dig metal." And then we just brainstormed Metal Shark Bro over the next 8 hours. We were on the phone for 8 hours, and we were just batting ideas back and forth. And it just kind of turned into this beautiful project that we have now, that we have 2 volumes of, and Ninja Nuns is a spinoff of that. And yeah, man, so it just kind of worked out really nicely for us. It was cool. And it reminds me a lot. I told Mike this earlier. It reminds me a lot of the old radio show, because Kevin will come to me with an idea, or I will come to him with an idea. And then we just kind of play tennis with it. We just bat it around and we make the idea better. There's no ego involved in it. It's just to try to make the best product you can make, the best idea you can have.
Yeah.
And then
don't let it die. Don't let it die. Don't let your guy down. Like, you guys are in it together.
Yeah. Sometimes
you got to be Robin. Sometimes you got to be Batman, whatever it is. Sometimes you guys are just Superman and Batman working together. You gotta. And I don't know, man, we did it for so long. You gotta drop the ego when it comes to that stuff. And if you can drop the ego, the shit that's going to come out is going to be the most amazing stuff, because you're not jockeying for position at all during the bit. And that's the most creative way you can create. Like,
Kevin and I never flip through a joke. And this is the same thing with the show. Like, it's never like that was my joke or your joke. What mattered is people dug the final product. And I think that's what was important about the radio show, was people dug the final product. People didn't like, we never kept score in the studio of like, that was a good joke for me right there. That was a good joke for, so it was just a lot of fun to do, man. And working with Kevin's really nice. Writing comedy is a lot different than performing on the radio, because your feedback is instantaneous. I remember Mike and I would just stare at the phones when we first started, hoping people would call, because we had no idea if anybody was going to dig this stuff we were talking about. And we would just stare at the phones, and if the phones lit up and then they would come back, they were like, cool, okay, this is awesome, cool, people are digging it. When you're writing comedy, you don't get that. You don't get to read the bits in front of them. So you just, right. It's a different process, but it's still a lot of fun. And, you know, I've had some success doing it, and hopefully that continues, man. It's just another phase on my journey.
You know what's wild too about your answer, and this is a part of the, like we were talking about earlier, just being a better listener makes you a better communicator. And you know, I'm listening to Bobby, and he described his whole journey after the show the same way he just described the show, in the sense that, like, it's organic. I was driving home from a Comic-Con and this happened to me, and then this manifested itself. I did this comic for my daughter because this is what I wanted to make her for her birthday. I took her to the museum. She had this fascination with dinosaurs. It came from the right place. Then comes the success. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in the success, the money part of it. No, well, you know, I should get all this because I created. You could create the greatest and best thing in the entire world. One person might see it and think it's beautiful and amazing. It doesn't make it any less beautiful and amazing if only one person saw it. And I think that's awesome, because it's exactly how we've lived our entire lives. I mean, I do that now. And Bobby and I even talked about earlier, there was always, like, for me, especially towards the end, anybody that like encroached on just him and I together, I was jealous. Like, I would be jealous of that relationship. And now I listen to Bobby being creative, you know, with Kevin or something like that, for example. And I'm like, that's beautiful, because it's still there. The fact that, like, you can create that chemistry goes nowhere. And you just want to create with people. I still do it now. And nobody should feel guilty about it. If you have that ability with people and you can make connections with people and grow something out of it, you should embrace it. It's awesome. And it's a part of your journey and growing up, I guess.
Well, that creation is something we're all there to listen to, and we all greatly appreciate it for the 10 years. You guys can see the comments on this. We all appreciated it so much. So that naturally would lead to the question, Alex, 2021, if something came up that could make a nice offering on the table, be it on a radio or like satellite radio or just a podcast or something, could a future Mike and Bob show possibly come back?
That's an exciting question.
I mean, I wouldn't say no. I mean, if the opportunity kind of came about, it'd be foolish not to say no. But I think, and the reason why my answer to that question without the conversation Mike and I had earlier today might have been different, because, you know, things happen between people. And I don't think Mike and I ever really had an honest conversation about the way things went down, about the way we were feeling about the show, about each other, about the whole process. We had that conversation today, you know, for 2 hours, like Mike said, before we did this. So yeah, maybe 3 days ago, I might have said no, because I don't know if it could ever be as good as it once was, but now I think it could be, if that makes sense. You know,
Bobby said Conrad, when we were pretty much done and we had to come to terms with it, Bobby said something that was really telling to me. And at the time, it just depressed me. It depressed me because I was so caught up in the idea of just, we got to keep this thing going. It'll just work itself out. He said they fired us when we were just about to get really interesting. And I didn't get it at the time. I just thought about we've got families now, and now we have a whole new bunch of stuff to talk about. And, here we are 10 years later. It's still, to me, it's like been 5 years ago forever. You know, it's like, 5 years ago, this happened 5 years ago. But, we became whole new people and have whole new careers and aspirations. But I don't think that changes the idea of the chemistry and the friendship. I told Bobby today, man, I love him as much as anybody in the entire world. And there's nothing I won't do for him. And it's an unspoken thing. I think when you have that with people, where can it go? Like, where does that love go? It doesn't ever really go anywhere. There is the everyday life that comes up that gets in the way of it. And then the guilt kicks in because you don't feel like you're loving somebody enough. But it doesn't go anywhere. And he's going to be my brother forever. I mean, forever. The shit, even before the radio show that we went through together, you can't separate that. It's like an unspoken thing. If I was to explain it, it would diminish it, and I couldn't put words to it. So like today, we get on the phone, and we never really miss a beat. But the surface conversation ended today, and the real conversation started. And it was intense. And the next thing you know, it's like, oh, we got to be on in 15 minutes. All right, you go eat, I'll go eat. I'll see you in a second. So all of a sudden, the entertaining went back on,
but it was nice to have. It was nice to have the conversation, because the most important thing, the fact that people dig the show is cool. But the best part about it was the fact that Mike and I were friends.
Yeah.
Without the friendship, the show never exists. Like it never happens. It's not a real thing. So the friendship has to be there first. And that's when people always ask, like, well, what do you miss about the show? My answer was always, I miss my friend. Because we didn't have that anymore. Like that was gone. It was taken from us. And like, we didn't know, we forgot how to be friends because we were just being a radio show. Like there were things that we didn't. It
was hard to see. It was hard to see.
Well, there was so much, but there was so much involved. Like everything was so entangled with each other. You know what I'm saying? And like Mike said something, very poignant today. Like if we had this conversation in 2011, how would it have landed? Like today, it was very much like, I respect you and I respect that. And I get that. And I understand how that would make you feel. And it was very kind and warm and understanding. But in 2011, who knows how that would have landed? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. Would the show ever happen again? Commercially, I can't see that happening, because I don't think we'd be allowed to do what we did then. Like we wouldn't be able to go on for 45 minutes then. You wouldn't be able to do that now. As a podcast, I'm not going to rule it out. I mean, we had a reunion show when we were doing Bob's Boneyard, and that was so much fun to do. Like all of us were together in my living room, and we just kind of like, it was you, me, Torres, Manny, Black Nate was there. Like,
that's right.
It was a really good time. Like it was a lot of fun. And like, I would love to do something like that again, but it has to be genuine. It can't just be for the sake of doing it. It has to be because that's where we are. As
Conrad, if Bobby and I didn't have the conversation we had earlier today, I don't know if this would have felt the same tonight.
I'll completely agree with that.
Yeah. And again, it's like, there's nothing like, we're not dishing anything out here. There's no like, where Bobby and I we were fighting, right? No, we at the time, I just think we knew intuitively what each other were going through. And we were so afraid to tell the truth to each other and actually say, this is what I'm going through. This is who I am. And I'm afraid that if this comes out, like you said earlier, man, you're not going to love and appreciate me anymore. And we thought by protecting each other from certain things, it would, just work itself out. The show would just continue. It would work itself out. And then everything would be great again. But there was a lot going on inside of both of us the last year of that show. And I think a lot of that needed to happen in order for us as individuals, forget about like the show for a second, in order for us as individuals to be okay. And I think we're closer to that now. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but I think that's what life is. So I would never rule it out. And that's not to say that like we talked about earlier, like Friends, that was why it worked. And over these last 7-8 years of being on the point, like I've become really tight with Woo Woo, and we've become really good friends. And the reason why I think like our show now is where it is because of the show that I was on before. We knew how to make each other better. We knew to look out for each other. And he looked out for me even when he knew I was wrong. Even when he knew that, like, yeah, you know what, I don't agree with him on this one, but I got him. This bit sucks, but I got him. This sucks, but I have his back. I'm not gonna let him fall flat on his face. And that was the idea. And I think when you have that kind of relationship with the person you work with, I don't care if it's on the radio, wherever it is, you're gonna be okay.
I like to look at it this way. Seko approached me with the idea of starting this like last April. And the very first one I did, I was literally on my bed. We had nothing that we were planning to do. And I'm like, okay, I'm into politics. I want to get politicians on to do this. Now we're in March of 2021. I'm expanding it as much as possible. You can make it what you want. And now we're only doing one a week. You know, let's say you look up a StreamYard and then you're like, hey, why don't we just try this out for 1 week? We've already done an hour and a half.
Don't pressure us into doing anything, Conrad.
It's not like my own selfish reasons for doing this. Yeah. So I'm just saying that it's a real one way to get to the end of this thing. I don't know what I'm going to do with the Beach Brothers show, but I do like the idea of what get guys like you on. It was a great thing to have you guys on. And I also, as we wrap this up, because this is a 757 highlighting show, and you guys are instrumental to like the fabric of Hampton Roads. In my opinion. Yeah. You got to have great and favorite things about this area, even ones that might not even exist anymore, but still echo the 757. So if you guys could just, what's like really good about the 757 that you like? Places to.
Jesus. You want to go first?
I don't even live there anymore. Why do I got to go first? You live there.
You had more time away to think about it. The thing is, I'm spoiled by the 757 all the time, Bobby. So, like, I'm in it. I haven't detached myself yet, so I can't be on the outside looking in. So you need to go
You know
first.
what? I'm not as detached as I would like to be sometimes. There are things that I love about Virginia Beach, that I love about the city. You know, we've got some really good friends that have done some really amazing things in Virginia Beach, like our boy, our main man, Brian Radford, who started a little restaurant called Hell's Kitchen. Now owns the Butcher's Son.
The Butcher's Sonny's, two locations.
It's fantastic. Like every time I come to town, I manage to make my way there. You know, I know the Hall of Dudes burnt down.
The Hall of Dudes.
The Hall of Dudes burnt down. That's
my favorite landmark in Norfolk, no doubt.
Oh my God, that place was a shit show.
Yeah, it was so fun though.
But it's I don't know, man. Like there's some bit like I love Radford. I'm so proud of Brian because I follow Brian on social media, and to see Brian Radford go from like slick city restaurant tour to like a cowboy is my favorite transformation in the whole wide world. Like he's got a ranch.
He's a good cowboy too.
He looks like the Marlboro Man, for God's sakes.
I think it's great though. I mean,
the worst part is,
and it's authentic, Bob.
Yeah, but the worst part about it is now he's sexier now as the Marlboro Man than he ever was as like some restaurateur that handsome gun.
Our wives used to just talk about him freely right in front of us.
Oh,
it was like he was the sexiest man on the planet, and he is. He was. I mean, I think he's still pretty damn sexy. Yeah, it's those stories. You know, it's who like I even said it to Conrad over our Facebook chat after I got back to him 7 weeks later. I don't go on Facebook a lot.
Well, that's typical Mike Powers, though. To be fair.
Yeah, I even said the other day on the air, it's like, stop emailing me, work. I'm not emailing you back. Just send me a text. This is ridiculous. There's too many emails. I'm not into it. But like even seeing you listen to the show and now you're doing a podcast, to hear people go like, I grew up with you guys. That's pretty fucking cool. Who gets to ever hear that? And if you get wrapped up in it too much, you're like, whoa, yeah, this is great. But if you really like feel it right here, that's so fucking.
I also got to admit,
sweet.
the only way I went to Baxter's or Scotty Quick's is because you guys mentioned it.
Those were great places. I mean, and those were great guys that worked there, you know. Shit, dude, I remember I would spend hours on end at Comic Kings. They sponsored our hockey team. Like, you know, there's a lot of really great people in Hampton Roads. There's a lot of great people in the community that I miss, you know, on a daily basis. You know, like, it's weird to me now that I don't have a guy that I can call, because I can't call Frank the Tank to come in and put in a ceiling fan because I don't know those people anymore here. Like, I don't know a guy who can fix my car anymore because I don't live in Virginia Beach. Those are the quick and easy comforts that I miss, you know?
Well, that was wild too, because it always came from the right place. It was like, oh, you guys do this show for me, and here we are. And we're doing this thing for you. It's awesome. And then somehow we'd find a way. That's the best part for me is the involvement of everybody. It wasn't just us. If you recall, we'd whip through 30 phone calls sometimes in a break where somebody was taking the show in a completely different direction. We had no problem handing it over to anybody at any time. And that's what was so cool. The fact that you can call in, say what you want, be what you want. And again, like we talk about socially and changing and all that stuff, like not, you know, we weren't like super advocates or anything like that, but we care about people and all people. And we loved the fact that everybody listened to the show. And I don't mean everybody in the world, but I mean, all kinds of people listen. No one felt excluded. So that was a great feeling.
In the past week, I've been going to as many ways I could get like old media of the show. Like, there's one YouTube channel that had one particular show from September 2006. And I'm listening to it again, and I'm hearing even the callers into the show, they didn't do that, hey, how are you guys doing? They went right into the subject matter. It's like there was more dialed in that you could feel with the callers than any other radio show.
Just hanging out, you know?
Yeah. It really felt like they were
involved. But that's all it was, though. I mean, like, I don't know if you guys ever listened to Dan Le Batard.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever listen to Le Batard?
Yeah.
I felt like Le Batard was the sports version of our show.
That's a good comparison.
It's very much like, this is who we are. This is what we're doing. If you're listening and you're calling in, you understand what's happening. Like, you're going to hit the ground running. You're going to work it out. And if you don't, we're going to work you through it. We're going to try to let you get your point made. But I mean, it was very much a communal thing. It was a lot of fun. There's nothing like it now. There'll probably never be anything like it ever again. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like, it was a blast, man. Like, we were, I hate to use the word blessed because I think saying you're blessed is.
Yo, we blessed up.
I mean, saying you're blessed is
can you say blessed up though? Please let me hear you say it. I want to hear you say we blessed up.
That would never come out of my mouth in a million years.
Please.
But I mean, like, you know what? We were very fortunate. We were very fortunate that people understood what we were doing and they got it. And that's the main thing, that they got it, you know. Not saying that we were like cutting edge, you know, like abstract humorists, but they understood what we were going for. Like, we were very much like a lunchroom table in high school, or like
we weren't going for anything.
Yeah,
that's what we were going for.
We were your two funny friends at work. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's who we were. We were just two regular
you were in the group. You were in the group. You were hanging out, and through that, I think we've kind of lived our lives and our relationships the same way forever, and that's been really, really nice. So and thank you to everybody for giving us the opportunity and getting us so blessed up. Thank you for the blessings.
One love.
Blessings on blessings on blessings on blessings.
One love. But man, we're just dudes doing our shit. Why does the camera keep changing? That's freaking me out.
Yeah, that's cool. There you are.
But I mean, there's so much there. I mean, I don't know, man. We had fun. That's all that matters.
And I appreciate you guys not only for doing the show, of course, for all those years and still being around the area as much as possible, and for coming on the show tonight. So I'm glad you guys wanted to come on. Thank you. Any great last words you guys want to say to the audience, which is now an audience of a lot of past Mike and Bob show viewers?
Blessed up, Scott. Go ahead.
I don't know, man. Thank you. I mean, it's weird, like I said earlier, that what we were able to do as teenagers resonated with people and still does, like it's just, it's a weird space to be in, man, but you just take it and say, hey man, thanks. We did a great job. You guys did a great job. We had a lot of fun. Cool.
Yeah. And as we close out, what's the best way to sort of stay in touch with you, Mike? You're still on the radio. Is there Twitter handles and stuff that we should follow, or just?
Well, you don't have to. But I'm at, you don't have to. No, I'm at Mike Powers Live, and I sometimes post, and I'm on the point with Woo Woo in the morning from 6 to 10. And we've had a very, very a good year. Like, I know the pandemic's been really, really tough on everybody, but it has given us an opportunity to grow as a show, and that's been really, really nice as people as well. So definitely do that, and definitely Bobby, give all the comic book information and where you're at on Twitter and everything. Whoa, look at all that stuff. There it is. Whoa, look at you. Look at this. Oh, my God.
Really impressive.
Thank you. What technology? I mean, this is something else.
I am at BFrance19 on Twitter and Instagram. I do 2 podcasts. I still do Dork Trek to this day. I actually have to record it a little while.
My mistake.
Well, it's okay, man. It's fine. But yeah, we still do the Star Trek podcast. Myself, Dennis Black and Asian, Jenny and Ben. We do the Star Trek podcast. So we've been doing the Star Trek podcast for 10 years. 10 years. Awesome. It's crazy. And then Kevin and I do a podcast called The Word Bros. It's just us talking to comic book creators. And it's a lot of fun, man. We have a good time. You can check out my book. Go to scoutcomics.com. They have all my comics, Metal Shark Bro and all that stuff. Or you could just go to thewordbros.com. There's a little tab right there on the website that says buy our books. And you can head on over to our store and purchase some of the things that I'm working on now. Thank you. Dork Trek is great. We have a lot of fun doing that show, man. And I don't know, it's been cool. It's been a journey. It's been a lot of fun. I'm honestly glad that Conrad, that we did this today, because Mike and I had a really good conversation. And I think that's probably the best thing that'll happen out of this for us, is we can feel like we're kind of reconnecting, because time happens in distance, and I really enjoyed talking to you this afternoon, man. I hope we get to do it more often.
No, me too.
Not you, Connor. Not you, Conrad.
Not me.
Oh, Mike.
No, Connor, you're all right too, man. But Bobby and I, it really was a really great conversation. So much to where once I get done here, I have to go have a 2-hour conversation with my wife about the 2-hour conversation Bobby and I had, because they're just things that we should have said to each other. That again, we didn't beat each other up over the years. We haven't, there's no weird animosity or anything, but there is that I fucking miss you as my friend, as a human being. And I think when Bobby said this, I to be honest, and make fun of me if you want, Dix, I almost teared up when he was like, we want our kids to know each other. Marie knew Uncle Bobby. He's still Uncle Bobby because she was old enough at the time. But, we think about, Sophie and Claire and Bobby, and it's just how are we where we were and where we are all those years, and our kids, it's just, we had a different idea at the time when we were doing the show of where we would be right now. And at the time, we couldn't handle the fact that we wouldn't be there. And now I think when you come to terms with the fact that you have zero control over any of it is quite, and it's eye-opening. It's comforting, and it's not always easy, but it's how life works.
Well, and I think today too, I learned a lot about you and the way you were feeling and your motives and and a lot about that too towards the end of the show, because I think they were misconstrued on my part. And so some things that perception in my case became reality because we stopped talking.
Yeah.
We
were so set on trying to keep what we had that we thought letting go of the real stuff that made the show. If we just let go of that and ignored it, things would just keep going and they would work themselves out. Yeah. But that wasn't the case.
It was a fun chit chat, man. I really enjoyed it. And I hope we do it again. And I hope Mike, because, I hope we stay in touch, and I know we will, but I hope it's more than, I don't know, man. I would love to have that relationship again.
Yeah. And as would I, there's no doubt about it. And like I said, it's the feeling and the emotion's never going to go anywhere. It's never going to go anywhere, but to have the actual human experience of what we once had, it takes work on all of our parts. And I think I owe that to, I owe that to a lot of people. I know I do. I mean, and there's, I'm sure there's people that might owe it to me, but I definitely, I know Torres is probably watching right now. And I mean, he's been one of the dudes that have always stayed on top of me to like, come on, man, let's go. When I didn't quite have the energy to pick up and go and make the phone call. So, you're right. It takes a lot of work. The feeling's there, but then you have to actually express it and put it into action.
Dudes.
All right, Conrad.
Thank you guys so much. You guys.
This has been a Super Soul Sunday with Mike and Bob. Thank you for watching.
Any comments? 622-9696.
Is that still their number?
I never called in. I was only texting.
Oh, really?
I was a text guy.
You know how fucking old we are? I remember when Bobby got Twitter for the first time. He was like, dude, I was talking to this guy and he was in and out. It was so great. Remember that?
I mean, we rocked Twitter really well, though, because we got Kevin Smith on the show because of Twitter. We got LeVar Burton on the show because of Twitter. We just reached out to him on Twitter. Yeah, it was that was the wild, wild west of Twitter when like LeVar Burton slid up in my DMs and gave me a number to call him. And we talked to LeVar Burton for like 45 minutes. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago, man. But I don't know, dude. It's fun. Like, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know.
Who knows? Hey, and by the way, Jason, I'll give you damn your eyes. Yes. Damn your eyes. Damn your eyes. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I'm going to close out tonight.
All right, we got to go. I got to go watch hockey. I love you, Bobby. Conrad,
I love you too, man.
I think I love you too, Conrad. I think I love you.
Thank you.
And thank you for putting this together because you were instrumental in our conversation. We're going to forget that in the future that you were instrumental in it, but you were.
Thank you. Well, I hope you guys have a great night. We're going to go on out here for the Beach Brothers show. I think you guys, this is probably the most commented show that we've had in a long time. And hopefully the most watched. And I'm glad you guys all stuck in tonight. Remember to come watch the Beach Brothers show every Thursday around 7:15. And the channel on the Beach Brothers show on Facebook. Hope you guys have a great evening.
This show was brought to you by Positive Vibes Incorporated, our consulting services. We do credit fixes. We do tax resolution. We lend private money and debt consolidation. So if you need some of these services, we're waiting here for you. Credit fixes, tax resolutions, private money, and debt consolidation. Make sure you call Positive Vibes Incorporated.